The name's Hybrid. Q5 Hybrid. Audi's entry into the mixed power market makes it the fifth German automaker after Mercedes, BMW, VW, and Porsche to mass-produce a hybrid model. Until recently, the alternative energy market was the domain of Japanese firms, such as Toyota, who brought out the Prius in 1997. Now the Germans are doing their best to catch up. Audi product marketing executive Jürgen Klaschke says his company knows how tastes in cars change over time. The concerns are climate change, dwindling resources, rising fuel costs, and increasing urbanization. He says that a car's requirements change, and the hybrid is a step towards an emissions-free future. No doubt Audi thought long and hard before settling on the Q5 as its first hybrid. The choice of engine type was a huge decision. Jürgen points out that Audi wanted to be able to sell the Q5 under the same conditions in all of the world's markets. Its sedans are more directed at Asia and the U.S. The Avant is more for Europeans. But he says the Q5 is supposed to be universal, which is why it is best suited to be a hybrid. He says it uses Audi's most popular engine, the 2.0 T gasoline model. A diesel engine would have excluded the Q5 from the U.S. and Chinese markets, so it was essential to have just one hybrid gasoline version worldwide. The Q5 Hybrid does vary slightly in appearance from the regular model. The underside has been modified, the chassis lowered by 2.5 centimeters, and the tires have been changed, all to reduce the hybrid's wind resistance. But the double chrome-plated exhaust pipes show that this vehicle is no softie. Extra lights in the rear bumper ensure the car is visible, even when the extremely broad trunk lid containing the main rear lights is raised. The hybrid does lose some 80 liters of cargo volume over the conventional model, but its smooth loading edge and a flat trunk floor make for comfortable loading and unloading. Of course, what's more important is how the hybrid performs. With a peak energy output of 180 kilowatts, the 2-liter turbo engine can push the Q5 up to 100 kilometers an hour in 7.1 seconds. Naturally, the low fuel consumption won't be available driving like that. The Q5's 40-kilowatt electric motor can power the vehicle by itself, making it a full hybrid. Running on battery only, it can cover some 3 kilometers at a constant 60 kilometers an hour. The Q5 Hybrid's technical project manager Bernd Hüver says his main aim was to reduce the volume and weight of the car to allow the new components to fit in with the existing design of the vehicle. He says that the redesign has had a positive overall effect on the driving experience, with the original Q5 sporty DNA coming to the fore, enhanced by the feeling of driving an electric vehicle. The Q5 Hybrid can run on its fuel combustion engine, on electrical power, or in mixed or hybrid mode. The driver can choose from 3 different driving programs. Short urban trips are perfect for full electrical mode, and for normal usage, the car uses both engines to maximize fuel efficiency. Anyone wanting a bit more oomph can switch off their green conscience and hit the car's sporty button. The hybrid system components add just 130 kilos to the Q5's overall weight, keeping its curb weight under 2 tons. The vehicle is the only Q5 version with an 8-speed automatic transmission with console shifter. Instead of a torque converter, it has a disc-shaped electric motor. A multiple-disc clutch, immersed in lubricating fluid, connects and disconnects the electric and combustion engines. The hybrid's lithium-ion battery is in the rear, under the cargo floor, and has been extensively crash tested. Project manager Bernd Huber says Audi has never before combined so many core specialties in one car. It contains its TFSI and Quattro technology, as well as lighter construction techniques and hybrid components. Huber says all that makes the Audi Q5 Hybrid a unique vehicle with no direct competition. He describes it as a hybrid performance SUV in the B premium segment. The Q5 Hybrid goes on sale this fall with a price tag in Germany of 53,700 euros. That's a good 10,000 euros more than the conventional 2-liter gas model. Being energy conscious is still a pricey business. Volkswagen's Golf is synonymous with a certain type of car. The competition prefers to call them compacts. But in every test, the Golf is always king of the heap. But the competition is growing, such as Ford's new diesel-powered Focus. If it wants to dethrone the Golf, it's going to have to get past a few others first. The French are also in the running with Renault's Megane. This diesel packs a punch with sporty seats, leather steering wheel, 18-inch alloy wheels. But its chassis is as stiff as cement. Fine for racing, but for everyday use, it can literally be a pain in the neck. The Megane tops out at 215 kilometers an hour and delivers 118 kilowatts. It can hit 100 in 8.7 seconds. That puts it in third place behind the Ford Focus and the Golf GTD. It's the worst as far as fuel efficiency goes, but is right in the middle when it comes to the price tag. Our test driver Dirk Blanke reckoned the Megane has a lot of character. The good news is that the engine has a lot of bite without being too noisy. The bad news is the suspension, or lack of it, that lets you feel every bump. If you like it a little less wild, then check out what Mazda has to offer. The Mazda 3 Series isn't anything to write home about, but it's packed full of goodies. Not just automatic air conditioning, but things like blind spot detection and a tire pressure monitoring system. Top speed is only 205 kilometers per hour, which puts the Mazda far behind the rest. But its 2.2-liter diesel serves up 110 kilowatts and keeps up with the competition as far as acceleration goes. And it's the cheapest one of them all. You can pick one up in Germany for 25,390 euros. Dirk says the Mazda is big on the outside but small on the inside, something Opel is also good at. He found the back seat extremely tight, but was impressed with how tastefully the Mazda's kitted out. Again, the suspension leaves a lot to be desired, especially on bumpy roads. Dirk liked the 2.2-liter engine, smooth and quiet. Not much punch, but certainly enjoyable. Next in line is the Opel Astra. It's got what it takes to get the Focus and Golf shaking in their boots. Price-wise, the Astra's right in between, with the Ford about 600 euros cheaper here in Germany. It tops the 5-liter diesels for fuel efficiency, but performance-wise, the Astra can't keep up with the Focus and the Golf. If we take a look at the stats, you can see the Opel shares third place with Renault for maximum speed, but is back and forth when it comes to acceleration. It needs 9 seconds to get up to 100 kilometers an hour. Our test driver was disappointed at how much room Opel has wasted in the Astra. At 4.42 meters, it could have been a solid mid-range, but it's really tight in the back. But he loved the Flex Ride feature that can adjust the suspension to sportier or comfier. The only way you're going to beat the Golf is at the cash till. VW wants almost 30,000 euros for the GTD. That's 3,000 more than its European competitors and 4,500 more than the Mazda. So what does the Golf have that the others don't? Well, for one thing, it has more space, but also a touch more class. You notice this as soon as you switch cars. Plus, the engine is the strongest of them all. It chucks out 125 kilowatts, allowing the GTD to max out at 220 kilometers per hour and leave the others in the dust. It also takes it from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in just 8.1 seconds. For Dick Brockett, it feels like the Golf has been top of its class for a century. He can't see that changing either. It has the most space, and unlike the others, there's enough room in the back seat. He loved the interior finishing, the comfort, and especially singles out the 2-liter TDI that runs as smooth as silk. Ford's gone with a coupe look for the new Focus. Its new form is designed to look more dynamic, especially the angular windshield. Ford calls it kinetic design. These days, it's all about looking sportier. But the Focus only does this on the outside. The latest edition of the Ford is much comfier than its predecessor. The steering is just as precise, but the overall handling and chassis are not as tough and relentless. The stats put the Ford Focus just behind the Golf GTD with a top speed of 218 kilometers an hour. And it's second place for performance, 120 kilowatts. It can hit 100 kilometers an hour in 8.6 seconds, half a second behind the competition from Wolfsburg. It's a little more fuel efficient though. Our test driver liked the look of the new Focus, though it was a bit over the top inside. He says the driving experience is now more comfortable, but not as spirited and precise as its predecessor. The engine is a big success, with a 2-liter diesel full of drive. The Ford Focus is hot on the heels of King Golf and definitely gives more bang for your buck. At 26,450 euros, it's about 3,000 euros cheaper than the VW. For that amount, you could throw in some extras, like emergency brake assist, lane assist, or blind spot assist. The Focus leads the pack with its safety features. Still, it's not enough to make it pick of the bunch. It easily beats the Megane and the Mazda. The Astra is more of a worry. But when it comes to cost, the Focus is ahead. Overall, though, the Golf still rules the road. You're going to pay a lot more for it than for the new Focus, but it's worth it. The Ford's let down by the interior finishing and the cramped rear seat and trunk, but it was a good try. Extra power for the Panamera. Porsche's sporty 4-seater has been given an extra 37 kilowatts with the Turbo S. The 8-cylinder 4.8-liter twin-turbo delivers a dazzling 405 kilowatts. Its launch control flings it from 0 to 100 in 3.8 seconds. That extra power for the Turbo S will cost you an extra 28,000 euros in Germany, putting you back 167,300 euros in all. After Fiat took over Chrysler, it gave the Dodge Journey a makeover. It's making a comeback as the Fiat Fremont, initially with a common rail diesel engine packing 103 and 125 kilowatts. It's the new competition for the likes of the Ford C-Max and the VW Touran. Whether or not the 203 kilowatt engine is released in Europe is still unknown. Chevrolet has come out with its new Aveo. The 5-door hatchback and sedan might just liven up the small car sector. The gasoline engines range from 51 to 85 kilowatts. Later this year, 2 1.3-liter turbo diesels will follow, with start-stop technology. This edition has 4 different models that enhance the interior design. Prices start from 11,900 euros in Germany. The history of the Borgward Hansa Heppmüller convertible is as old as the history of the Federal Republic of Germany, and it looks like it's just driven out of a film from the post-war years. Then there's that old-fashioned metallic knocking sound of the 52 horsepower engine. Our test driver says he's driving a real luxury car, a Borgward Hansa 1500, built in 1951. The glittering gold of the steering wheel and instruments transport him back to the heydays of the West German economic boom. The Borgward was a bit of a miracle in post-war Germany. When it was introduced at the Geneva Motor Show in 1949, the Hansa 1500 blew the competition away. Opel, Ford, and Mercedes were still showing cars based on pre-war models from the 1930s. The Hansa's engine was superior too. A sleek 4-cylinder motor boasted 52 horsepower, whereas the Mercedes 170V could only manage 45. Officially, this vehicle has a top speed of 120 kilometers per hour, our test driver says, but to reach it requires a lot of time and courage, as the car is hard to handle. Because it lurches around so much, he didn't do more than 80, and that was enough. On the other hand, the rear swing axle, which makes the car so hard to control, also ensures a surprisingly comfortable ride. Christoph Bauer says visually it's like having the back of a whale in front of you. From this vantage point, people might think the car is huge, but that's not so. The Hansa was produced as a sedan, a station wagon, a box van, and even as a 4-door luxury convertible with a Heppmüller car body, like this model from the Zeithaus Museum in Wolfsburg. Our test driver notes that he very quickly picked up on the car's biggest weakness, its gearbox. He says having the shift on the steering wheel, the height of modernity in the 1950s, doesn't make things easier, as there's no direct access to the gearbox. The thing catches and jerks, but when it works, he adds. 23,000 Hansa 1500s were built over the course of 3 years. There's something almost stately about driving a Borgward Hansa 1500, Bauer says, but in 1949 this car was absolutely state-of-the-art. It was the first German car with an American-style pontoon body. Still, he notes that it's very simple, with little in the way of chrome and trim. But the technology was very modern. Independent suspension, electric turn signals, and starting in 1950, the first German-made automatic transmission, the Hansamatic. However, Bauer says that the VW Heppmüller looks much younger, fresher, almost eccentric, even though it uses much older shapes. Car body manufacturer Heppmüller transformed the VW Beetle into an iconic convertible. With its coquettish rounded back, completely retractable roof, and elegant two-tone paint job, the mass-market vehicle was now a luxury car. But with its 25 horsepower engine, it remained down to earth. Bauer thinks it suits him better than the Borgward. Just 2 new models were marketed in Germany in 1949. The voluptuous Borgward and the chic VW Heppmüller convertible were the colorful cars of their day. In comparison to the Borgward, Bauer says this VW drives in a wonderful manner that's almost lively and sporty. He says back then there were people who loved the extravagant, and so Heppmüller was contracted to build 2,000 of these convertibles. They built just 696 though, because their production facilities burned down in 1949. This tragic event has made the VW Heppmüller convertible into a much sought-after collector's item that sells for the price of a Ferrari. Just 100 of the convertibles are still around today. Christoph Bauer says, just like with the Borgward, the VW also wanders around on the road. Its narrow tires and rear swing axle mean that you really have to concentrate to keep within the lane. When out for a drive, it's best to take the advice of Beetle developer Ferdinand Porsche and just let the 1.1-liter four-cylinder engine rejoice. From 0 to 100 in 50 seconds, not exactly a sports car, he exclaims. The car can only reach 105 kilometers an hour, but he says that doesn't matter. With the wind in your hair, you feel you're traveling fast. In its day, the VW Heppmüller cost 7,500 Deutschmarks, 3 times as much as a normal Beetle. The Hansa convertible sold for almost 11,500 marks. Our test driver says if he had to choose between the 2 Heppmüller convertibles, he'd take the VW because it handles better and he loves its shape. He says the instruments are a bit more reserved and Spartan, but then again, he prefers understatement. To this day, both Heppmüller convertibles are still dream cars, and that's no understatement.